Welcome to Conversations with Educators. I'm your host, Jerome Ellison, and today I have a special guest, STEM teacher Ayo Olufade. Thank you for coming on the show, Ayo.
Thank you for inviting me, Jerome. I really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to say before we begin, I just want to thank you, uh, you know, uh, in two ways. Number one, for inviting me to your show, to your program.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I just want to thank you because you're using your platform in order to, send the message out to impress upon our young, the next generation, the importance of, education. As Nelson Mandela said, right in the background, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, and also, make yourself relevant in this ever-changing world.
Yeah.
I know for me, it was coming from Africa, to the United States of America. So, education was very important, and then to also emphasize, and this is the part that I'm fired up about, and that is most important to me at this time in my life, is actually trying to impress upon the young next generation, especially children of color, Black, indigenous, children in the community of color, the importance of STEM. As science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, permeates through every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
So I believe we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to say thank you so much for bringing me to this forum. Appreciate you.
Anytime. I appreciate you as well. All right, so let's get into some reflective questions. So why did you become a STEM teacher? What got you into that field of teaching?
Good question. It was not my plan, really. So my plan initially was to do something as originally my plan was to be a medical doctor. And that was one of the reasons why I came to the United States of America, because the opportunity, was vast. So I wanted, send out a shout out to my parents, my mom and my stepfather. My stepfather, first of all, my mom, she's phenomenal. By herself with two other children, crossing Atlantic Ocean, coming to the United States of America in the winter, and starting a new life. And then meeting my stepfather, who was wonderful man. He adopted us. So that's how I came to the United States. So I took that opportunity, being here in the United States, to pursue my dream. One of my dreams was someday, when I become a medical doctor, I will build a medical school. A hospital.
Okay.
In my village, Ayere. I'm from Kogi State,
Nice.
in Nigeria, West Africa.
Nice.
So that was the dream. But I've always been interested in science from the beginning, even in high school. In high school, we have a choice. It's either to, pursue science or pursue art. But I was not interested in Earth or history or anything like that. I was more interested in science. So I put a lot of my energy in science, biology, physics, mathematics. Those were very important to me. So when I came to the United States, I seized the opportunity to continue to pursue science with the hope that someday I'll become a medical doctor, but it didn't turn out. But one of the things that I always tell my students, it's let your dream be so high, because you never know where it's going to land you. So So when the medical thing didn't work out, medical school didn't work out. So I continued with science, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, because I have the background, then I moved into research.
Mm.
So I started in college as a technician. I will really encourage all of our young, children coming up, the importance of internship. Try to get, at least if you can get, during the summertime when you're free, try to get experience and employment and internship in the programs that you're interested in. Because once you start looking for a job, one of the things they're going to ask you is, do you have an experience? So for me, so I started pursuing research, and I was in research for a little while. So I worked both in the academia, in the government, and in the private institution. But things were not really going well aside from money. So, and I was in the middle of trying to change my career. So my mother, who was an educator back then, invited me to come and sub at high school, because a science teacher left. I was not really interested. I said, being a teacher with the middle school with those kids, no. Although really in my mind, it's so interesting. I've always thought that the best scientist is the one that does research and can also communicate, that information that he has learned to other people. So wouldn't this be really a perfect situation for me? But I didn't see it that way, but I was confronted literally, with that belief that I've held for so many years. Now I've really, truly had to really practice it and, make it a reality. At any rate, I took a chance. So, and I came in as a sub, and then Dr. Gibbs, Constance Gibbs, I'll never forget Dr. Gibbs. She's a white lady. She took me under her umbrella. And then she basically mentored me. Actually, she literally mentored me because she is also originally a science teacher. She had a science background. So she saw the importance of science and STEM. And that's how I became a science teacher, and I became so good at it. And can you believe it? I've been a science teacher, a STEM teacher for 17 years.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. Now I reflect, just like you said, reflecting. It's like, how did I last that long? But I became so good at it. And now I have become like a preacher, preaching.
I love that.
The importance of STEM, especially to our young generation, because it's extremely important, as you know. And we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of STEM.
That leads right into my next question. I was going to ask you, why would you say exposing our youth to STEM programs at an early age is important for them?
As I've mentioned before, it is important because, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, all of this permeates every aspect of our lives. A child who is not exposed to that is behind the eight ball, way behind the eight ball, because everything moving into the future, as we move into the future, it's going to be based on your literacy in STEM. And put it another way, according to the Department of Commerce, moving into the future, 24% of the fastest, moving jobs are going to be in STEM. STEM related, are going to be STEM related careers. Only 4% is going to be in, other non-STEM related jobs. Yes, it is true that those other non-STEM related jobs are so important. You know, and you can make money. Nobody is saying that you shouldn't go into, be a businessman. Of course you can be a businessman, but if your business is to sell electronics, is it important for you to be STEM literate? It is important. So every single, even our toilets now, well, let me talk about the cars. In about few years, look at the move that this administration is moving in regards to the new cars that we're going to be having on the roads. They're going to be hybrids or electric cars. The engines are going to be a little bit sophisticated, smaller but sophisticated. The knowledge of yesterday is no longer going to be relevant. Look at the most important thing that has just affected everyone in the whole world right now. COVID-19, for God's sake. And then all of a sudden now we're in this conversation. I know I have it with my students, whether their parents should take the COVID test, whether they should take the COVID vaccine, whether they should follow the CDC guidance as it pertains to social distancing. So, but teaching them about how the SAR, SAR basically is responsible for this vaccine and how it invades and takes over your cells and to replicate the cells to make you sick, and the mechanism behind it. It was important for me to basically inform my student, teaching them, because so that they can make an informed decision as it pertains to matters that affects their lives and their family. Or take, for example, bottled water. That's another simple one. Recently, there is alkaline water, bottled water that was recalled. Some people died. Only maybe about few people died from that, but it was such a major, important, pin that the FDA has to basically put their foot down and say, hey, you got to do the recall. But it is important for the students to be STEM literate, because by being STEM literate, then they will be able to know that you shouldn't be buying whatever anyone is trying to sell to you until you do the research and you know a little bit about how the pH affects your body.
I love that. Yeah.
So so this is the reason why it's really important for our young children, to be exposed to STEM at the early age, and finally, by the time they get to high school and even college, they'll be dealing with people like me. So by then, they will have all the foundation, the basic, because I know we're going to go to this topic.
Yeah.
One of the challenges for teachers right now, at least for us STEM teachers or science teachers, the students coming to us and they're not having the basic fundamental, knowledge, especially as it pertains to, mathematics, as it pertains to, the basic science. And then we find ourselves teaching. What shall I have? I do understand there are many dynamics going on. After all, it's research. There is research that documents this. This is one of the reasons why some people, stakeholders are arguing the students. School should continue year round. because by the time they leave for the summertime and come back in the fall, they've lost all the gains they have made during fall and spring. So I hope I answered your question.
No, that's very true. Yeah, you definitely answered the question, and you touched on a lot of great points. And I think a lot of things. One thing that you just said was like reworking maybe even the schedule of how school looks and doing some more summer work. And I think that's something that's going to happen this year because of COVID, doing summer rising across the country, and because we have funding for it. But I think that's something to revisit. And another thing is the importance of having STEM and making it a focus and exposing our kids to it at an early age, right? Like you said, by the time they get to high school and college, sometimes there has to be a lot of reteaching because they're not, where they need to be. But it starts in pre-K kindergarten. We really have to start building a core into the curriculum because it's the future, whether it's electric cars, whether it's viruses and coming up with vaccines, all of it is STEM related. And everything in the future is going to have some connection to STEM. So if we're not really exposing our kids to these programs at a young age, then they're going to be, like you said, behind the 8 ball in terms of the job market and in terms of, so many other fields that they can get into to help them be successful in the future. So I think that's so important. And you touched on the challenges of it, right? So I'll ask you this. I'll go to this question. What has been your proudest moment as a STEM teacher? What's something when you think about it, always puts a smile on your face?
Well, I want to revisit one. Well, there are many actually, but one of the one I've already mentioned one. I've been a STEM teacher, a science teacher. I will use those interchangeably because I see, all of this discipline as interrelated. And I'm a little versed and I teach, and that is how I approach my science classes. Every time I teach, I make sure I connect, not only chemistry. I make sure I connect chemistry, to technology, to engineering, and to mathematics. And if you look at chemistry itself, remember when you were in high school, you have to take chemistry. And that is always a shock to many students. I have to do math in chemistry. Oh, I don't have to do math in chemistry. So it is. So the proudest moment for me is being in this field, this long, 17 years. I can't believe that I have been here 17 years. And what makes it even more poignant, more important, more unbelievable for me sometimes is this idea that imagine if I have 120 students a year. Now you multiply that times, let's do the math first, 120 times 10. So you put
1,200, right? That's 1,200
behind, yes sir. And then you multiply, and then you basically divide that by 7, and then that kind of gives you that.
So it's around 2,000 plus students you had an impact on.
That is the number of students, numbers of lives that I have been fortunate, I've been blessed to be part of. So when we say we're in the business of, changing lives, reshaping minds, it is real. This is just a number for you. Every STEM teacher, every teacher that is out there in the field working so hard, trying to make a difference, they contribute, to the future. So I didn't plan it. Remember, I told you this was not the plan. The plan was different. But if I should die today, God forbid, I should die today. So somebody will say, okay, what is your legacy? I mean, should my legacy have been all about making money, of being famous? Is that really what I want to leave for my children? But my legacy should be that I was able to impact or make a difference or contribute to the life not only of my children, but other people's children and the nation, my community.
Yes.
So, I mean, for me, so being in here for 17 years, teaching and still aspiring to continue to be a STEM ambassador. And now I'm diving into being a consultant, in STEM. So, you know, so that actually is my proudest moment, although there are many.
Many. I love that. I love that. I love that. And it's the idea of teachers, the impact, right? It's like exponential. You impact 2,000 kids, and those 2,000 kids have families. They impact their children, who's impact their children. It keeps going through generations. The impact you have as a teacher, and it's priceless, right? It's always the best moments as a teacher is when you have someone who you taught comes back when they're 20 years later, and they come back and tell you what impact you had on them as a teacher, and that's what keeps you fueled and keeps you going, and that's priceless. That's something that you can't put a number on. Really, whether, like you said, amount of money you make, right, can never compare to that impact you had on those generations. So I love that. I think that's great.
Thank you, sir.
Into the next question, you said you're moving into becoming a consultant in terms of STEM, right? I think we need more consultants with STEM because STEM, we have to really focus in on it, right? But I would ask you this, based on your experience in the school system, now as a consultant, or thinking it from a consultant's perspective, what do you think needs to be improved in the school system in order to put more emphasis on STEM and to better prepare our students for the future that we talked about earlier?
Well, the good news is I noticed there are many schools, working very hard, to have a strong STEM program. But if you think about, the challenge for this many schools is the fact that for many years, there has not been really strong STEM programs. There has not been emphasis on integrated STEM. And now, there are more call in the most recent years, less than 2 decades, of making STEM being integrated. And that is extremely important. You cannot be teaching. I remember when I went to college, and I'm pretty sure it was the same when you went to college.
Yep.
When you took those science classes, everything was in silos, right? So the problem of the 21st century, as we see it, okay, COVID, right, all right, or the exploration of of mass, trying to understand our universe, the storm, the hurricane, the tornadoes. All this requires integrated way of looking at things, multi-dimensional way of looking at things. So you have all these administrators, all these school superintendents, who are actually working to try to bridge, all the gaps. So it's a major challenge. So I will actually continue, or I will say, I will encourage the principal, the administrators, all the leaders that be the stakeholders, the superintendent to continue, put in, resources, and support, behind their STEM teachers, and start pretty early, as we've discussed already. Put the seed down and build on that foundation. You can't relent. Look, I want look. This week, China has been, major, has been in the news majorly. And now they want to have their own space station. That is amazing.
They're moving.
Now China is competing with the United States of America. And China is not the only nation. So how do we actually compete and outcompete our competitors? The only way we can do this is by starting pretty early and staying consistent, and putting the resources, where it needs to be put. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching STEM, for 17 years, and I know part of the frustration, part of the frustration that science teachers have is the lack of support too, especially as it pertains to, fundings, why does a science teacher, although the district that I'm from, that I taught at, they have been really good, they have been really good. But again, I told you I'm doing my doctoral. So part of my dissertation, funny enough, it's in STEM, acquisition of STEM. How do teachers prepare, their students, for STEM careers or acquisition of STEM skills? So one of the major challenge is resources, and the equity in the distribution of the resources.
That's it.
So you need to start pretty early, and then you need to support the science teachers, and also the fundings. And the last point that I would like to make is the following: 26 states have adopted the next generation science standard. I love the next generation science standard because it's looking at, a STEM, in a multi-dimensional or integrated way, right? And it's also trying to, encourage teachers to teach, to take, let's say, the core, concept and relate it so that to the students real life.
I love that. That's it. That's it right there.
So that way, it makes an impact. That way, it changes their perspective. That is a way to get them to buy in. So if you're asking the teachers, okay, to adopt, to really teach, to implement the next generation science standard, you need to support them, right, with the resources that is needed. One important resource is the NSTA, okay, has a yearly conference, right? So there needs to be funding available for any teacher that wants to go, especially new teachers. One of the things that really upsets me, and if I'm an administrator or if I'm a superintendent, I will do my darnest so that this doesn't happen, is for a brilliant, and I've seen as a department chair and also as a team leader, I've seen it. We bring in, okay, a new teacher, science teacher, and then we invest a lot into this teacher, right? And then the teacher leaves. When I say invest, talking about not only the moral support, but professional development and things like that, but it's never enough. But then the teacher leaves because number one, there is no support. Why do you want to invest so much? You pay a teacher a starting salary now, depending on the state. Let's say it's $46,000, and that's part of the investment. All right, and you are going to support this teacher for 3 years, and the teacher gets this knowledge, knows the in and outs of how to teach, right? The act of teaching, science, and then they leave. That's a waste of the attrition is just too much.
I love that. I love that. Last segment. That was so much great advice, so many great things. Last segment is called Choose Your Teachers Wisely, right? So education, as you know, happens inside the school building, but also outside, right? So I want you to give a shout out to one person. It could be a person or a thing, right? Just one shout out to someone or something that has educated you to be better.
Wow, there's so many. So when I was in elementary school, I'm going to go back there. Everybody can relate. There's one particular teacher that made a major difference for me. Her name is, the only thing that I remember about her is her name is Mrs. Bird.
Mm.
And she was from the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you are listening, I don't know if you remember me, Ayo Olufade. Just want to give out a shout out to you. I want to say thank you. For instilling in me back then. She took the time. She was tough, but she took the time to embed in me the importance of education, and look at me today. So there are many other teachers, professors. Let me go, man, I have a list. That's the thing with my life. It's just never, just like when you ask me to choose between the discipline, it's hard for me to choose. I mean, I see the importance of all of it.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I guess that's the way I look at life as a person. So, but let me now go to college. Dr. Burns, Dr. Hughes. It was rough for me as an African American, Nigerian American. Going to college, trying to pursue science. I can't remember back then, but I think I'm the only Black student, and I went to Iowa State University for my undergraduate in biochemistry. It was rough. It wasn't easy for me. As an immigrant coming to the United States, trying to adopt a new system, trying to learn, and trying to survive, working, trying to survive. It was tough. It was tough because, I was trying to get into research, trying to get an opportunity to be a research technician, even as a student.
Okay.
No lab will take me. I went knocking at different doors. It was rough. To a point where one day I was sitting, waiting to get an audience with Dr. Burns.
Okay.
The lady, I've never met her before, but it shocked me. I mean, it took me a little bit off balance. She said, "You're very resilient." Why will you say that? Why will you say you're very resilient? But later on in life, I was thinking that maybe people know more about me than I think. I always sort of go about my business, do my thing, but that was not my plan. But she said, "You're very resilient." But Dr. Burns connected me with Dr. Ted Hewitt's, Iowa State University, Department of Biochemistry. And Dr. Hewitt gave me an opportunity to work in his lab. I was characterizing monoclonal antibodies back then. So now I start applying my science knowledge, in research. And then Mr. Waters, that's the next opportunity. So now they're important to me because literally I was knocking. I was looking for opportunity, and there was none. And they actually gave me that opportunity. I mean, so I will encourage every young minority, children of color, coming up, never give up. It's not going to be easy. If it was easy, everybody will do it.
Oof, I love that. It's my favorite line.
Yeah. So, but if you persevere at the end of the day, you end up doing something anyway. Why not just do what is not easy so you can make good difference, an impact, the big bang, right?
Yeah.
So, and then finally, there are a couple of teachers in Johns Hopkins University that I want to give credit to. The first one is Dr. Fawcett. I remember him, you know, taking his cell, you know, a lab class in, you know, that deals with cells, growing cells. He actually, you know, took his time. He was tough, but he has a way in which he taught the class that actually made me grasp the concepts. And I will forever say, you know, thank you to him. So those teachers, those were really important to me. So I hope I.
Thank you. It's a lot of them, but that goes back to what we said earlier, right? Teachers, the impact you have, lasts a lifetime. I want to thank you, Ayo, for coming on the show. Shared so much great insight on STEM and other things and your experience as an immigrant and as a STEM teacher. And I appreciate you for all you've done and all you've brought to education. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed. And remember, education over everything. Bye.